Hello to all of our viewers. I'm Attorney Denvil Crowe. I'm owner of the law office of Denvil Crowe, where we help people regain control of their finances and their future under the Bankruptcy Code. The Bankruptcy Code was created to help Americans who are suffering from crippling debt or who encounter unexpected financial challenges, such as medical bills or loss of employment or divorce. It's also helpful to stop creditors from taking your house or your car. Now, today I'm here to demystify the bankruptcy filing process. And there's a lot of misinformation, misconceptions about bankruptcy that I'm going to address and explain. So let's break this down to the biggest myths that cause people to fear bankruptcy. These beliefs come from all kinds of different places, but they all have one big thing in common: they're not true. So let's take a look at them one by one and separate fact from fiction. Myth number one: filing bankruptcy is a sign you don't handle finances responsibly. It is important to understand that this is simply untrue. As one of the most dangerous myths, this one can hit people at the absolute core. So if they believe filing for bankruptcy will make them look financially irresponsible, they may skip the process in favor of preserving their pride. The truth is that anyone can find themselves in a situation where bankruptcy becomes necessary. Many people who file for bankruptcy have gone through some traumatic life changes that have caused them to fall into financial hardship. The most common of those life events that cause individuals to file for bankruptcy are they have recently divorced, or they've lost their job, or they've fallen seriously ill and have a lot of medical bills. So filing for bankruptcy does not automatically mean you're financially irresponsible. Bankruptcy provides individuals who have experienced a financial crisis or a change in their life to start over. No matter the financial hardships or issues that have led you to the financial situation, opting to file for bankruptcy does not make you financially irresponsible. In fact, taking the step to file bankruptcy can often be more financially responsible than ignoring the creditors or continuing to slip further into debt. Our next myth is it's really hard to file for bankruptcy. No, it's not. At least not in the hands of an experienced bankruptcy attorney. In the hands of an experienced bankruptcy attorney, filing bankruptcy is easy. The decision to file bankruptcy may be hard, but once the decision is made, the filing process is easy. We take our clients by the hand and we lead them step by step through the entire process. Nothing could be made more simple. Our next myth is your debt will go away and you'll get to keep everything. Unfortunately, this simply isn't true. Now, while bankruptcy does help eliminate the vast amount of debt and allows you to keep a majority of the property through exemptions are those things that are set out that you get to keep, there's still certain debts that you're going to have to face. Major debts that you'll still have to pay off after bankruptcy include child support. You'll still have to pay alimony, most student loans. You cannot discharge legal settlements and certain tax debts. And there are certain tax debts you can get rid of, but there are some that you cannot. Also, if you have a car or house payment and you want to keep those, you're going to have to pay for them. Now, if you do not wish to keep those items, then the debt goes away, but you're still not allowed to keep the car or the house unless you pay for them. But keep in mind that most people who file bankruptcy don't lose anything. Our next myth is you will lose everything you have, including retirement savings. Now, nothing could be further from the truth. The fact is, most people who file bankruptcy don't lose anything. Okay, do you hear me? Most people who file bankruptcy don't lose anything. So first, now the laws vary from state to state, and every state has exemptions. Exemptions are what the state has set out of things that you can keep, things that you can protect. And there's certain kinds of property that you can protect and keep. For example, in Mississippi, the exemptions protect such things as your house. It also protects your car, your truck, household goods and furnishings, things that you have into your house, IRAs, retirement plans, wages, and even personal injury claims in certain instances. Under those rare situations where you've got some property that can't be protected by the available exemptions, there's always a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. And in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, think of it as you're combining all your debt into a single payment where you're making that payment to the trustee And that way you get to keep all that property. You may have to pay a higher Chapter 13 plan payment, but if you have things that don't follow under the exemptions and you need to keep them, that's the way to handle that. Secondly, filing bankruptcy does not generally wipe out liens. Therefore, if you want to keep a car, a truck, a house, or business equipment that serves as collateral for a loan, you need to keep paying the debt. Now, if you make those payments and you have exemptions to cover any value above that you owe, you can rest assured you're going to be able to keep those items. Our next myth: everyone will know you have filed bankruptcy. Well, unless you're a prominent person or a major corporation and the filing is picked up by the media, the chances are very good that the only people who will know about a filing are your creditors and the people you tell. Now, while it's true that your bankruptcy is a matter of public record, the number of filings each year is so massive that unless someone is specifically trying to track down information on you, there's almost no likelihood that anyone will ever even know that you filed. Now, however, telling someone that someone else has filed bankruptcy is good gossip. Okay, just like someone saying, did you hear so-and-so is getting a divorce? So if you don't want anyone to know you filed bankruptcy, you need to keep that information to yourself. I get questions oftentimes as, will this appear in the newspaper? In the last 20 years, I have not had a client come to me and say that it had appeared in a newspaper. I don't believe that newspapers do that anymore. I have two more things to say about that. One, who really reads a newspaper anymore? And secondly, even if they did read it, why would they be interested in looking in that section? So the only people that are pretty much going to know are your creditors and those that you tell. Our next myth is that filing bankruptcy will hurt your credit for 10 years. Not true. Now, if you're thinking that, you're getting two completely different concepts confused. Now, the fact that bankruptcy is reported on your credit report for 10 years, you're getting that mixed up with the effect that the reporting will have on your credit. So just because something is reported on your credit report does not necessarily mean that it's going to have a negative effect on your credit standing. So first, let's get one thing out in the open. By the time you need to make an appointment to see a bankruptcy attorney, your credit is already messed up or maxed out or both. Now, this being the case, you've got no credit for bankruptcy to hurt. Further, in my experience, if you can't establish good credit in 1 to 2 years after you file bankruptcy, most likely it has nothing to do with the fact that you, once upon a time, filed bankruptcy, and it certainly has nothing to do with the fact that your credit history still shows an old bankruptcy. Also understand that I've got clients that get pre-approved credit cards and offers to purchase cars before their meeting of creditors. Now, let me explain what that means. That means the creditors are sending out pre-approved credit cards and pre-approved offers to purchase vehicles between 30 and 45 days after the case is filed. That's how quickly they're jumping on this. So believe me, if you've got the income, you're going to be able to get credit. Then we have the myth that you can never buy a house, a car, or any large purchase again. Quite the contrary. Filing bankruptcy gets rid of debt, and getting rid of debt puts you in a position to handle more credit. And this makes you look more attractive to would-be lenders, okay? So let me explain that. So for example, you have your income here and your debt is here. Bankruptcy reverses that situation in most cases. So what that means is you now have disposable income that you can use to pay creditors. So in my experience, unfortunately, it won't be long before you're getting those credit card offers again. And I say unfortunately because I don't really want you to go right back into debt again. At first, the would-be lenders will want more money down and they're going to want to charge you higher interest rates. However, over time, if you're careful, you keep your job, you start saving a little money, you pay your bills on time, and you do everything that puts good marks back on your credit report, the quality of your credit will get better and better. Generally, in my experience, if a client has not reestablished good credit in 1 to 2 years, sufficient to buy a car or even a house, it's not because they filed bankruptcy. It generally means there's something else that's happened after the bankruptcy to hurt their credit. In fact, I've had clients that went out and purchased a vehicle within days of filing their bankruptcy. I also, at our office, have a list of automobile dealers who actually specialize in people who file bankruptcy. And what I like about them is they actually offer a reasonable interest rate, instead of trying to gouge someone who's filed bankruptcy. These automobile dealers actually offer a reasonable interest rate, and they even offer no money down options to purchase a vehicle to those who have filed bankruptcy. I've even had clients come in and tell me that within 1 year of filing bankruptcy, they were able to purchase a house. So just because you file a bankruptcy does not mean you can't buy a car, house, or other large purchase again. You will lose your job or not ever be hired again. Now, some of you may be hesitant to file for bankruptcy because you're afraid you might lose your job. Okay, maybe you're concerned that a potential employer will deny you employment if you file for Chapter 7 or 13 bankruptcy. And if you can't meet your financial demands with a job, how can you meet them without one? Now, it's safe to say that you will not lose your job solely due to filing for bankruptcy. Okay? No employer, government or private, can use your filing for bankruptcy as a reason to change the terms or condition of your employment. This means they can't use it to demote you, to reduce your salary, to take away responsibilities, or even to fire you. Now, in most cases, especially in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, your employer won't even find out about your filing. But if a creditor sued you, they've got a judgment against you, and they're garnishing your wages, then your employer is going to be made aware. And this is because in order to stop the garnishment, the employer must know about the filing of your bankruptcy. In some cases, under Chapter 13 bankruptcy, your employer is going to know that you filed. Because if you have a regular job with regular income, then it's a requirement that your payments be taken out of your paycheck and automatically deducted and sent into the trustee for your Chapter 13 plan payment. So in this instance, your employer serves kind of like a collection agent and also making sure that you honor your Chapter 13 plan. Now, when it comes to applying for jobs after you file bankruptcy and potential employment, no federal, no state or local government agency can consider your bankruptcy when deciding to hire you. Now, only private employers retain the power to do so. And when I say that, that's kind of rare. Jobs that require that you deal with money, like accounting or payroll or some type of broker, those tend to be a little warier about hiring those that have actually filed for bankruptcy. It's also important to note that those private employers tend to do credit checks on job applications, and filing for bankruptcy would appear on your credit report. So unless you have one of those types of jobs, you've got nothing to worry about. Our next myth is if you're married, both you and your spouse have to file for bankruptcy. Not true. In many cases where both the husband and the wife have a lot of debt, it makes sense and actually saves money for both of them to file. But it is never a requirement under the law. We have many cases where only one spouse is filed. The good news is that generally, if it makes sense for both spouses to file together, they can both file for the price of one filing. Our next myth is that bankruptcy leads to divorce. This is not true. Usually, it works just the opposite. Filing bankruptcy is not the problem. The problem is not being able to pay your bills. All good, honest, hardworking people feel a strong need to pay their bills, and not being able to do so causes them to feel tremendous stress. So unless you do something to relieve that stress, the stress can quickly build up to the breaking point and the marriage breaking point. Now, bankruptcy is designed to get you out from under the debt, to get you out from under that burden, take that stress off of you, protect your property, okay? In essence, just calm things down for you. And if your experience is like that of other couples, you're going to find that filing bankruptcy and lowering the stress level can be a critical step in bringing the love and caring back into your relationship, which in turn gives your marriage a fighting chance. Our next myth is you can't get rid of back taxes through bankruptcy. We get rid of old taxes for our clients all the time. And what do I mean by old? So I mean income tax is more than 3 years old. So under the law, there are 3 or 4 qualifications that have to be met for this to work. But once those are met, those taxes are gone. Now, please note, filing bankruptcy does not get rid of withholding or sales taxes. I don't care how old they are, but certain types of taxes can be eliminated through bankruptcy. Now, this is an interesting myth that I see often. It's the attitude that people have that only deadbeats file for bankruptcy. Not true. Most of the people who file bankruptcy are good, honest, hardworking people, just like you and me. And they've got to file. If they do, it's because it's a last resort. Usually after months or years of struggling to pay the bills that are left over for some life-changing event, such as a divorce or loss of job or failed business venture or some type of serious illness or family emergency, or because they honestly and mistakenly fell into debt at a young age before they knew any better, before they knew anything about budgeting or how to manage money. So it is not true that only deadbeats file for bankruptcy. Our next myth is filing bankruptcy means you're a bad person. No, not true. There's a reason that over 1 million Americans file bankruptcy every year, and it's not because they're bad people. Lots of good, honest, hardworking people fall on hard times. I mean, let's face it, life can be brutal, and sometimes the money is just not there. So the bankruptcy law was created with this in mind, to make sure that you have a way, if need be, to get free from this burden of debt, to get you a fresh start so that you and your family can have a second chance and a fresh start. Our next myth says paying off your debt is a better option. Now, I'm going to spend a little time on this. There are people out there that think bankruptcy is the worst fate ever. And I'm telling you right now, it's not. And nobody gets to the point where they're considering filing for bankruptcy without a lot of lost sleep. What bankruptcy is to either say, I have nothing to pay off this debt with, or it's ruining my life, or I have this debt, but I can't pay off all of it, or it will ruin my life. Or my business has more debts than assets, but I think we can make it if I could pay some of the debt. So in this case, the options are a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13 for individuals and a Chapter 11 for businesses. And a lot of people try to go it alone. They're trying to pay off their debt or turning their debt to debt settlement places, thinking that they're going to spare their credit rating from taking a ding and the hassles that come along with having bad credit. Now, debt settlement might be an option, but there's a few caveats, okay? Debt settlement companies are in it to make money, so let's not forget that. And here's how they work. They negotiate a lump sum payment to your creditors that settles your debt. Sounds easy, right? Well, debt settlement companies typically have you deposit a sum of money every month for 36 months. Yep, 3 whole years into an escrow account that will be tapped by the independent party to settle the debts. So if you're having trouble keeping your head above water now, think about making those deposits while still having to pay all your bills. Additionally, the fees for the administrator and the debt settlement company, they come out of that account too. And, if you've got some protection, that would be great. And they give you a little protection and they've got to disclose fees and terms and how long it takes to get the result, but they cannot protect you from your creditors suing you and garnishing your wages while you're in this 36-month plan. But once you hold up all the money for 36 months, month after month, then you can pay off the debt. Or, as you can understand, there are worse things than having to start over. With bankruptcy, you eliminate that debt, okay? You basically settle that debt, you exit the bankruptcy free and clear, you start over again, you have a chance to start building a good credit history from scratch, and you don't have those payments hanging over your head. Our next myth is that filing bankruptcy will hurt your credit. That is simply not true. Think about it. By the time you come to a bankruptcy attorney, your credit is already either messed up or maxed out. And if it's already messed up or maxed out, how can bankruptcy hurt it? Okay. The big surprise for my clients is when I tell them that filing bankruptcy can actually help them rebuild their credit. Okay. Bankruptcy gets rid of debt. Getting rid of debt puts you in a better position to handle new credit. if only someone would give it to you. Okay. Therefore, bankruptcy is the first step in the process of rebuilding your credit. And believe me, they're going to loan you more money after you file bankruptcy. I see clients all the time that they actually go out and borrow enough money that they have to come back and see me again. So that is not going to be a problem, and it's not going to hurt your credit. It's actually going to help your credit. Even if you file for bankruptcy, creditors will still harass you and your family. Now, this is not true. In fact, nothing could be further from the truth. The minute you file bankruptcy, the bankruptcy court issues an order telling all of your creditors to leave you alone. No more phone calls, no more collection letters, no more lawsuits, no repossessions, no foreclosures, nothing. Now, this order has a name. It's called the automatic stay, and it's issued under the United States Code. Now, the automatic stay prohibits you from any and all collection actions, okay, after you file bankruptcy. The creditor's not even allowed to talk to you. In addition, the creditor must stop any collection attempts that they've already started. Now, the automatic stay is a very powerful, and it puts the full weight of the United States court to work for you. And what they're doing here is they're making sure that the creditors leave you alone. If the creditor violates the automatic stay, you have the right to bring that creditor before the court and ask the bankruptcy judge to hold them in contempt and to be compensated accordingly. So believe me, bankruptcy court judges do not take it kindly to creditors who ignore the automatic stay, and those judges have been known to punish creditors severely. Very simply, once you file for bankruptcy, creditors must leave you alone or suffer the consequences. Our next myth: you can only file for bankruptcy protection once. The truth is, you can only file for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy once every 8 years. But after 8 years, if you need, you can file again. As for filing a case under Chapter 13 of the Bankruptcy Code, we don't have those same restrictions. So hopefully, however, you will need to file more than one bankruptcy, there's an option available for you out there. And our last myth: you can pick and choose which debts and property to list in your bankruptcy. I'm sorry, but you can't. All right. Doing so would be against the law. Under the law, when you file bankruptcy, you have to list all of your property and all of your debts. Now, most people want to leave out a debt because it's in their intent to keep paying on it. And the good news is you can achieve the same goal even though you have to list the debt. Okay, if you want to keep paying on a debt after bankruptcy, you can. After bankruptcy, you can go back and pay anybody you want. In fact, after you file bankruptcy, there are some debts that you have to keep paying on. For instance, if you have a car, truck, or house loan, even though you list the debt in your bankruptcy, if you want to keep the car, truck, or house, you have to keep paying on the debt. More importantly, you need to know this: as long as you stay current on the loan and keep the property properly insured, you're protected under the law, and you get to keep the property because under the law, the creditor is stuck with you and can't do anything about it. Thank you for tuning in today. We encourage you to reach out and ask us for help, or come talk to us about your financial situation. If you're being harassed by creditors, just check with us. For those of you who would like to discuss your options for resetting your financial future, reach out to us on Facebook, over the phone. You can go to our website. Be sure and share this recording with friends, family, and anyone else you know who may be having a hard time. Thank you.